All right, everybody. Everybody wanted to, well, a few people wanted to know Yahoo pools and stuff. We've upgraded our prizes and everything for next year, trying to get some new people in. We've had really good years this year, so this is basically your main screen. You know, it shows the different pools I was in. My brother's pool, the free pool, the money pool, the second money pool, and then Kim Shaw's pool as well. Kim Shaw's was a keeper pool. The rest of these are just regular head-to-heads. These are the ones that we usually do, although this year Money Pool 2 will be a keeper. I'll probably do a separate video for that because, you know, it'll need some explaining for keepers. It's not hard, though. So, where to start first? Let's look at the pool. We'll do the free pool. And, of course, this was this year's playoffs. You know, there was 8 teams. We all battled it out. The team that won moved on all the way to the final. I managed to beat them by 1 point. It actually came down to the very last night, the very last game too, so it was really tight. And I ended up pulling off the first place, and then second place, and then third place. So that's how the playoffs work. I'll get to that later. You know, it's pretty simple. It's the exact same as everything else, really. Let's go into my team. So this is my team. As you guys can see. This reflects the last night that we had players playing. So this is basically, you can see, Ryan Getzlaff, he's the one that managed to win it for me. 3 assists, he had a +1, he had 1 power play point, and 4 blocks. And then this guy here, Taylor Hall, had a -1, he had 4 shots on goal. Marcus Johansson, or Johansson, however you want to pronounce it, had 4 shots on goal, and then down here, 1 shot, 4 hits. And then, of course, I benched my goalies, and you'll see why I benched my goalies here in a second. I actually benched them for most of the last game, but that you'll understand why after. So, these are our teams. You've got your out players, your D, you've got a utility player that can be anything other than a goalie, and then you got your bench players. So, as you can see, I had all my players in for the last night. As you can see, these guys were in. If I had, let's say Ryan Ellis was playing, I'd simply click, drag him up to the D spot for, let's say, like Mark Giordano wasn't playing, click, and then your Ryan Ellis would pop into your Giordano spot, Giordano back on your bench. So to make sure that you had your players playing. You cannot receive points if they're sitting on the bench. Some nights you'll get everybody's playing, right? And you just got to pick who you think's going to do the best. These guys down here you will not get points for. That's part of the game. It's like, you know, you're basically controlling your own team. Goalies, same thing. You know, if I wanted to have them in, they'd both be right here. Instead, I did not want them to play, even though Holtby did all right. You know, he did okay in that. It was risky for me. I'll explain that in a minute. So I left them both on the bench. Why did I leave them both on the bench? Well, it's probably going to bug you until I show you. Early on, I realized that I couldn't face off against Dominic's massive goaltending. Anderson, Rene, Bishop, Howard. I just couldn't do it. I've got good goaltending, Crawford, Lundqvist, and Holtby, but he had one more starter than me in the way that the schedule was in that last week. He simply had more starts. There's no possible way I could keep up with the shots, the saves, the game starts, and even the wins. Maybe the wins, but it turned out that I still wouldn't have won it because my teams didn't play that well that week. So I knew I was pretty much screwed in the goaltending, except that in those 2 starts, I had a 1.01 goals against average, and my save percentage was really high. So I benched my goalies for the last part of that week because I knew I was going to lose this. I knew I'd probably lose this. I knew I was going to lose these 2 as well. So I just hung on to those 2 points. Now you'd think, you know, okay, why didn't you just start your players? Maybe you would have gotten another shutout, maybe gotten more wins. Risk. Had I played my players, I would have lost these 2 stats and lost the championship. Because I held these 2 stats, and I knew I'd lose on most of these, and most likely lose on the wins as well, I just benched my players for the rest of the week. You only need 2 goaltending starts per week for your goalie stats to count. So I benched them. I held on to my 2 points, even though he takes 1, 2, 3, 4 from me. And I plugged all my power into my forwards in an attempt to offset what he did down here, which is exactly what I managed to do. I managed to squeak out the shots on goal, power play points. Just to let you guys know what these are. This is goals. Oh, cool. It'll show now. Assists, plus minus, penalty minutes, power play points, shorthanded points, game-winning goals, shots on goals, hits, and blocks. And then for the goalie stats, game starts, wins, goals against average, shots against, saves, save percentage, and shutouts. So those are all the different stats we have. There's 10 for out players and 7 for goalies. Goalies are very important, but like you just seen, sometimes if you can just grab a couple points here or even over there. Many years I win all these stats in a matchup. I'll take these 7 and then I'll focus on a couple of stats in here to take the win, especially in playoff time, because you just need the win. You've got to be smart about it. Strategy does come into play. As you can see here, I knew I was screwed on these, so I held those 2 and just pumped every bit of power I could into my offense to try to slimly get by. I mean, I think I kind of pulled off a bit of a miracle here, because really he had me dead to rights and I just managed to sneak by. But I did that because I used the strategy here of holding this. Now, if the roles were reversed, I would have done like he did and just rolled with it. Kept going, maybe get another shutout. He gains a point there. As you can see, his save percentage was really good. So had I played the rest of my teams, I would have had 6 starts, 3 wins, so loss, and I would have lost both of these. So it would have just been a sweep across the board except for the shutouts. So strategy. I also focused on the shots on goal and the hits. They were the 2 things that I knew that maybe I could flip, along with the assists as well. So I just focused my players. Like I dropped players. I'll show you here. Like you can drop a player and add another player. You can do this 4 times a week, which I most certainly did, in order to get those shots just enough to squeak by them, and the assists as well, which is what got me the win. Again, strategy. So it's not just, it's a hell of a lot of fun, actually. As you can see, his team did very well. He should have beaten me. I just managed to out-strategy him a bit, or truth be told, I just got lucky. I managed to use my strategy, and the Yahoo hockey gods smiled down on me and gave me a horseshoe. So, we're back on my list here. So like I was saying, let's say Taylor Hall sucks, and he is just playing terrible. You can't stand him. He's just doing nothing. You can click this, drop player, and he will go to the free agency list. But what I always do is each week you have 4 add drops. Now what an add drop is, as you can see over here, we've got add and drop. Let's say I want to add a player. This is our free agency list. You can, you can filter it by who has the most goals. You can filter it, let's say I need hits to win this matchup. So you can filter it by hits, the top guys right there. You can go on who's doing the best this season, which was Victor Arvidsson. He's ranked 16th. He's got 31 goals, 30 assists, 16 plus minus 28, 9, 7, 6. Oh, 6 is pretty good. Like these guys got some serious top of the line. But looking at underneath Anders Lee, But then you've also got to look at what do you need. Let's say I need a hitter and somebody gets penalty minutes. Well, then this guy wouldn't do for me. I'd need to go and say, okay, who's got the most penalty minutes? So where there's him. And we say, who's got the most hits? Well, it's him again. Fortunately, he was day-to-day at the time, so we couldn't pick him. So you just go down to the next guy. It was probably this one right here. Tom Wilson, 133 penalty minutes, a little bit less than, Cody McLeod. And you come over to the hits, he's got 239 hits and 150 hits in comparison. Or you could come down to Matt Martin, 300 hits and only a few less penalty minutes there. So it depends on what you want and what you need. For instance, where let's say, like we said, let's say Taylor Hall was terrible and, we didn't want him. We just go left winger. We need to pick up a left winger. We filter that. There's all our left wingers. Let's say we want a high-scoring left winger, so we just click on the current. That's the top players usually, and they tend to be the ones at the top with the most points, unless it's like a beast. It's got like 8,000 fucking penalty minutes. And then you can just filter it this way, That's your ads. If I wanted him, I'd click this. It would come up with, with his picture up here and my team underneath it. It would say, who would you like to drop, basically. You click on Taylor Hall, because he's the one we wanted to get rid of. It would bring up the screen comparing the two of them. You hit add, and bam, you've got. And you'd come back to your team, and then the following day, so let's say today is Sunday, or well, today's Saturday, it would be tomorrow. So on the Sunday, it would reflect on your ad drops. So, you know, Taylor Hall would still be here, but if you click over to Sunday, then you'd see Taylor Hall gone, and down here at the bottom, you'd see your new player, which you could just pick up, slap them in for the next day, and off you go. Do these 4 times a week. They're very useful. You know, regular season, I do use them fairly often. It depends. If my team's playing great, I don't. If my team's having issues, or, you know, I feel like one of my players isn't playing, I'll get rid of them, get somebody else. You can use 4 every week, so it's a resource to use to help you win. Same thing goes with the goalies. You know, you can go in there and filter the goalies, pick somebody up. Let's say, you know, you're tied with the guy on Saturday. You both have the same amount of starts. He doesn't have any goalies going tomorrow, and neither do you. Well, you could go in there, try to find yourself a backup that's going. Sometimes they'll show who's going the next day, like they have a little check mark there and say, you know, it's been confirmed by NESN or whatever the confirmation is. Pick that player up, slap him in, so that the next day, all of a sudden you got a starter, and you just won a point automatically by him starting, because now you're tie, you get the extra point, you're ahead of him, right? So strategy is a really big thing. I'm going to do a thing on strategy. I've only got 15 minutes to do this in, so I'll have to do a few videos most likely, but this will be the general one. You know, like I said, you can move them around. If I wanted Ryan Ellis in, I'd just click on him and click on the spot that you want him in, and it just flips them back and forth, same as your goalies. Just click, click. It's pretty easy. Somebody's injured, like Gudas was. He wasn't on the IR, so we have an IR plus spot, which is for people who are out, people who are day-to-day. They're not listed by their teams as IR. We also have an IR spot as well. So let's say Patrice Bergeron. I ain't going to drop him, right? He's one of my best players. He gets hurt. I'm going to click on him, and I'm going to slap him into one of these 2 spots because I do not want to give him up. I definitely want him on my team when he comes back. So in the IR spot he goes. And once I stick some in the IR spot, you see a little red thing up here that says you need to add 1 more player. We just go click, add player, find the player you want to add them, put them in the spot, off you go, right? You get 4 of those each week. So it's a very, very important part of it. It's important that you look after your team. No, you don't need to put much time in it. Generally, I'll log in the morning, I'll put all my players in, and I'll take 10 minutes and look at things and say, okay, everybody's healthy. I'll scroll through, I'll be like, okay, this team's good, nobody's hurt. I'll click over, and I do 6 or 7 of these, right? I mean, here's just 5 this year, and then one that was a non like that. So I'll go and let's go into my Big Bad Bruins here. Click. I'll look at everybody, you know, Adam Larson in, Blang in. These guys were on the bench because I couldn't fit them in at the time. And you just take a look, everything's good. You put your players in for the day. Click back out. Let's go in the number 2, click in, you know, there's my players, click, 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 everybody in. Oh, look, Rado Gudas is hurt. And I've also got somebody down here, I've got a lot of hurt problems in this one. This was one of the ones I had issues with hurt. What I probably want to do, drop him, because he's a lower end player, even though he gets lots of hits. Drop him, pick up a replacement. Gudas, I would definitely find him a spot on my IR plus. I'd switch him into IR because he is injured reserve. And then Gudas, who was really good this year, would go into my IR plus, and then I'd pick up another person. And then, you know, that's just each day. I just zip through it to make sure everything's good. You don't. It's all about how much time you put into it. You don't need to put huge, massive amounts of time, but it's just you know, it's pretty simple. I'm gonna have to end the video because I'm getting near my limit here. I do got to get the professional version. This 15-minute crap is stupid, but it just gives you a quick rundown. It is super easy. They're super fun. You spend 10-20 minutes playing around with it, and it's simple. Like, I mean even how the scoring is done is very simple. It's very easy to look at. Say, okay, you know, I'm losing by 11 points here. I need more shots on goal. Or I ended up winning. And here's the flip side of what I was showing earlier. I won in all of the goaltending here, where he stomped me out here, but I won just enough to win. So, next video, strategy. Be right back.